What's up, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the SignatureCAST, where we talk bodybuilding, business, and everything in between. Today, friend of Signature Fitness, Nancy Thistle Gross. Thank you so much for coming on today. How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's definitely great to have you back here at Signature Fitness. Nancy used to be part of the team a few years ago, but she is back better than ever, advancing in life. Hopefully happy and healthy family, and everything's good at home?
Yes, everything is really good.
Great. So I want to start off just to give the viewers at home, just tell them a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and how you kind of got your way here at Signature Fitness.
Oh.
Well, you don't have to tell about that working at Signature Fitness, but, in terms of your community, obviously the owner, Warren Feldman. I know you guys are, I believe, live in the same town.
We
and
do.
A few things like that, but just a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Yeah, so actually Warren was friendly with my in-laws.
Oh, okay.
And he roped me into politics. So he called me back in 2017 and tried to get me to run for council, which was really interesting because I am so not political.
Okay.
And I was a registered Republican. And he was asking me as a Democrat. And I didn't understand that. But I promised, if you know Warren, he had me on the phone for a long time. I could not get off the phone with Warren.
Understood. Definitely understand that one.
And I promised I would look into it, and I did, and I got fired up about an issue in town, and I wound up on council.
Very cool.
And through that, wound up establishing a much better relationship myself with Warren, and he would be my contact point. He would be who I would bounce things off of. He was really a great friend, a great advisor. And so we just had this great relationship, and we get to peek into each other's brains a little bit with our conversations.
Very cool. Very cool.
Which is why I think he then did ask me to come here to work a little bit, which was a great experience. I had never done anything with a gym before.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a really good time. We definitely were able to take a deeper look into how we run things here, which definitely helped. But so we're going to touch right off the bat. We know a little bit about yourself. Fitness comes first here at Signature Fitness. How has fitness become part of your daily routine, your life? Maybe it's involved in your family and all those types of things.
Yeah, big way. So the other part about me is I am a mom of 4 boys. And I had been raised by a mom who worked. And for me, I'm a little bit opposite of most people of my generation because most of my friends had moms that were at home. And when they went to college and graduated, they were looking forward to working, where I had always anticipated wanting to stay home because I admired the other moms, the kids that had their moms staying at home. But during the whole time, it was really important to me that our kids had some physical activity. Not that they would be any aspiring athlete, just that you had to have movement in your life, and it was really important. We as a family love to ski. We love the outdoors. We love to water ski. We love to snow ski. I love to hike. And when I was pregnant with my second child, was introduced to yoga. And I learned from Anusara yoga, which is a style that is very much about alignment. Mm-hmm. And that helped me with everything physically that I did after that. It helped my skiing. It helped when I did go to a gym and would work out. My form is so much better because I bring those elements into it. And it's moved on from there. I mean, from introduction, the yoga opened up my world of working out because I was more of an enthusiast of enjoying playing.
Sure.
Not like I grew up playing soccer. I grew up being active, but not like working out to work out. But the yoga brought that more to my life. Then I moved on to Pilates, then go to a gym and, everything like that.
No, I think that's super important. I love that you said you grew up more and lived more of a lifestyle of playing and doing physical activities. I just finished watching a really cool mini series on Netflix called Human Playground. You would love it because it's all about the different cultures in the world and how they use sport to stay physically active and play, and how it's a huge part of their culture and everything like that. It's really, really interesting. But that's fantastic to hear. I think, unfortunately, nowadays, because we're so caught up in our phones and the computer, children growing up now have kind of lost that connection with the outdoors. And, I can never forget grabbing my bike and just riding to my friend's house, and then we go to the park or just whatever the random mischief we'd get into, but it was always get outside and go.
Yeah.
Which I think is something. There are still some places in I think in the U.S. where you can capture that, but in busy places where we are in New York, New Jersey area, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of hunkering down at home, especially post COVID and all that stuff, and getting them back out there with teams and communities is super, super important. But that's really cool to hear. 4 boys.
4 boys.
I know I'm one of 3 boys, and my mom's just probably banging her head against the wall after everything. So 4 boys. 4 boys. That's fantastic, and they're all good, growing up and feeling fantastic.
Yeah, they're good. And we did it over a big gap, so ages from 26 down to 14. So
very cool.
I've stayed in the game, and it's been very interesting to watch how things change over time.
I'm about to say, because now your oldest is in his later 20s, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yeah.
And
26.
so now the youngest is in high school.
Yep. 14.
So what type of differences do you see in their development in terms of how they socially interact and that type of stuff?
Well, so the introduction of the iPhone came during that period.
Yes.
And also, as you're saying, my older boys were outside much more. It was just natural, and everybody. Actually, that's not true. Mine were noted to be outside more. I pushed them outside.
Get out the house.
I thought that was important.
Sure.
But the younger kids, not only has the iPhone come in a distraction, but parents can't help themselves but really watch. They get so afraid of the news, and you hear one thing happen somewhere, anywhere in the world, and oh my gosh, if it's in the United States, then that's going to happen to my child. And so the child can't take a step without the parent seeing and looking and assuring that they are. And so it went from, I've been saying lately, it went from the terminology used to be helicopter parenting, and it's starting to turn into bubble wrap.
That's a good point. You're right. I remember I've heard a helicopter parent before. I think it's more than bubble wrap. It's like straight jacket parenting. No, because I've seen it firsthand in some of the groups that I'm involved with. A lot of the kids nowadays, their parents are just. I don't want to. I'm not a parent, so I'm sure I could never understand until I do have children. But it's almost like your jacket, you're this, you're that, you're gonna be okay. Text me every 5 minutes, and blah blah blah. I'm like, my mom, especially me being the youngest, definitely. I think the opposite happened. It was more of a he'll be fine type thing.
Yes.
So I just started I would go out but I'd always let her know I'm going to Mike's house, I'm going to this person's house, and whatever. And thankfully, I never got into drugs or anything crazy, but we would still be like throwing rocks and doing stupid things. But I've seen it, and unfortunately, and I really hope we move away from this. The art of communication is disappearing. And I think you're seeing it now, not to get too political, but even moving up the ranks to older generations, the art of debate is gone. You can't disagree with someone anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary. And I'm hoping we move a little more centered soon, But that's fantastic. I'm really great to hear that you kick those kids out the door.
Well, I too. I'm the youngest of my family. I'm the youngest of 5. So
wow. So you get it.
To me, I learned so much from my mistakes, and that's the other thing. The parents really have good intentions. They're trying. They want the best for their kids.
Of course, they want to take care of them.
But what gets lost in that translation of care is the learning opportunity of making a mistake, learning opportunity of falling and scraping your knee, and being hurt sometimes. Because the reality is, we all know as we become adults, you can't suffering is actually part of life, right? We can't all have glorious sunny days. There's sad things that happen, and we have to be able to navigate that. And
I think I just heard, I believe it was that Jordan Peterson gentleman that I talked to you about earlier, that he had just said something along the lines, if you don't have the lows, the highs won't be as high.
That's true, yeah.
So you have to have both to enjoy and experience. It's definitely a little bit of the, and I'm sure you can talk to this, having been a mother, or being a mother. It's almost like we have a puppy, and they learn through doing the wrong thing and saying, punishing them or whatever it may be.
Right.
Just like when you're a kid, don't touch the stove. And then I touched the stove, and then I learned to never touch it again. Right. And I feel like if you bubble wrap, great phrase there. If you bubble wrap your children, they'll never touch the stove.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
Right.
So I think that's a great segue into our next piece here. Every single person that I bring onto the SignatureCAST, we end up, I think it's because it's a very interesting topic that I love to talk about, especially because we're talking about fitness and how it can help you in so many ways. It definitely helps in the mental aspect as well. So what do you see are some crucial things that you do in your own life or you'd like to see happening with your family or who or people you know to really give themselves a better sense of well-being and a better mental health state? Are there any practices you might have learned in yoga or anything like that?
I certainly have embraced meditation.
Okay.
That helps me a lot. And it, it's funny because people think that they can't do it. And I've come to, and there's so many apps, there's so many teachers, there's so many books, there's so many ways to do it. But for me, it's really, people say they can't still their mind, and that's really fine. It's really just a matter of, even if you could do it for a second and just listen to your breathing, it just kind of gives your mind that space instead of always going a mile a minute. And like you're saying, the communication, there's so many aspects of health that it's physical, it's mental, it's community, as we talk about, it's, what you eat, it's what you do, it's all of it matters. None of it's spirituality, I mean, how you connect with different people or beings or, being out in nature, like whatever brings you joy is really important to have.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that communication part as well, because I know I'll give a little story to the people at home for myself. When I was in college, I was auditioning to be the drum major of the marching band, which is the person that's conducting. And I was working really, really hard at it. And I put so many hours, and I really, for the first time in my life, said, I didn't just put 100%, I put 110%. And I didn't get it. And then I had some personal issues in my life and losing the girlfriend and all that, the stuff when you're young. Like I'm old, right? But but all those types of things. And I was always one of those people that said, you can just deal with it, right? You can just get through it yourself. And my roommate, Rick, who's one of my best friends from college, he was like, like in your tuition, they pay for like 2 free like therapy sessions or whatever it is. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't need that, And I'll never forget the guy. He looked like Mr. Clean, with the earring and all that type of stuff. I can't remember his name, but I just made an appointment, and just having an unbiased opinion and communicating with someone, and they just take an outside perspective. I think I was there for like 30 minutes or an hour or something, and I walked out of there. There was none of this like what you would think of mumbo jumbo of like, well, let's look at this and analyze this. He was just like, and he was just listening. And afterwards, the unload and that communication, like I said, to someone who had no idea who I was one of the most beneficial things I've only gone once. And that was the one time I ever went. I probably should go again. But it was one of the best. I felt so great afterwards.
No, it is incredible. So I stayed home with my boys, but while I did, I've been very interested in different things. So in yoga, I loved it so much, I became certified in yoga. I then became more and more interested and went to become a health coach. And that is a really big part of being a health coach. It's not that I have the answer for you. I have questions, I have listening ears. And for one, yes, the unload of yourself, just having somebody that's really going to listen to you is so important and feels so good and can take a load off without even hearing anything back. But in the health coaching, then being able to really listen and to be able to hear what they're really saying and to guide them in a way that helps them make choices that they're making the choices, really. I'm just kind of there like helping them.
You're just helping steer it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course, and I think we, especially living in such a fast-paced community here, I did some, I wanted to mention this. You had said you loved hiking. I don't know if you've been to Montana.
Oh, yeah. My sister lives in Montana.
Oh, my God. We're going to become best friends. This is great. I went to Montana right at the peak in 2020. Oh. And actually, I think you were...
I feel like that sounds familiar.
You might have still been here. And wow.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. Where am I going with this? I'm literally that caught up in Montana. It was fantastic.
You're hiking there.
Oh, so because where we live is so fast paced and it's always go, 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 go. It was one of the first times I went somewhere, and this is during the height of 2020 when everyone's freaking out, but still the way that they live there is just, good morning, how are you? How's it going? And it was so, once again, it felt like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders to be able to take my time going from A to B. And of course I was on a vacation, so I was more relaxed, but just in general, it's really interesting that because we live where we live in such a fast-paced society. It's about business and making money and moving forward and the next step and the next step and the next step, that you never get a moment to just cherish what you've accomplished or the people around you.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of mental well-being, I think that's one of the easiest steps for our viewers at home that you could take, is just, whether you call it meditation or whatever it may be, sometimes sitting by yourself, not on the phone, not watching TV, and appreciating what we have is huge.
You know what? It could be your cup of coffee in the morning. Just actually sitting with your cup of coffee, not taking it to go and like drinking it in the car, but just drinking that cup of coffee and looking out the window or taking a little bit of a walk around or whatever it is, again, that brings you that joy, that peace of mind for just a moment's time. But it has to be intentional. You're right, because we are so fast paced here. We have to really think about it and make it happen and commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we never give ourselves even that 10 minutes throughout the day.
Right.
I want to touch, before we move on to our next subject, this is something very interesting I learned, and this will help us segue, because I know you're getting really into nutrition and all that stuff lately, but caffeine. So everyone has their morning cup of coffee. Now, I had seen, of course, it was on Instagram, but I was listening to someone talking about when you should consume your caffeine. And this is very interesting. So caffeine is an adenosine, it blocks adenosine in your brain, which is the hormone to tell you that you're tired. And if I'm wrong, guys, I'm so sorry. But what happens is adenosine builds up in your system. And then when you take your caffeine, your coffee, it shuts that off so you don't feel tired. But what do? We wake up, we drink our cup of coffee, and we go on our day. And then for some reason around 1 o'clock-ish, right, we get this massive crash because all that adenosine has been building up. And once those receptors are opened back up again, wham, we get hit with tired. Right. So if you can teach yourself, which I've been doing now for the past 3 months, and it's been amazing. I wake up, I do my normal routine. I don't have any caffeine. I wait well, it depends when you wake up, but it should be about 4 hours after you wake up. Oh. Then have your coffee. And you'll never need another hit of coffee for the rest of the day. Oh. You might be a little tired in the morning, but get your body moving. So what's happening is you are taking in all that adenosine that's making you maybe still feel tired from when you were sleeping, but you don't have a buildup. So now when you have, for me, I usually around noon, I have my first sip of whatever form of caffeine, and it rides me out through the whole rest of the day to the point where you only start to get tired again around when it's time to go to sleep.
Time. Interesting.
Yeah. It was, I'm telling you, because I used to have, caffeine in the morning, caffeine in the afternoon, and then sometimes even caffeine again at 4 or 5 o'clock. It was bad. But this was, and I looked up the research, and it's true. It's really interesting. Wow. So if you can, give it a shot. I know it's usually routine for everyone. It's just like, morning cup of coffee. Oh, yeah.
You know what? For me, I was actually brought up on tea. I was a little child that drank tea.
Okay.
And not until I turned late 40s did I even have a cup of coffee. But my coffee is half almond milk, a little bit. It's a baby.
So it's barely a coffee.
It's a baby coffee.
Okay. So that's
no
fine.
sugar.
But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I have Chris, the sales manager. I think you remember Chris. Right. He's been doing that now too, and he's like, "Yeah, it's great. I don't get tired as much." And I was like, "Yeah, it's really good." Yeah. So moving into the next subject, I want to talk a little bit about community and how important that is. I know when you were here, you were really trying to establish a community and with working with ourselves and stuff like that. But how are you moving forward with it? What's in your town or in your family life or just in your network of your own people? How are you trying to develop a healthier well-being amongst your community?
It's interesting because I've noticed a lot of things happened. We all learned a lot during COVID, right? And I was so impressed by the younger generation that helped the older generation in making their appointments for vaccinations because they didn't understand how to navigate the computer system. And these younger people were able to, find holes and find places. So that was like such a beautiful thing. And for me, I love to gather as a community for the party or, whatever's going on, but that's like surface level. And when you really can be there, like that feeling that I had when I helped also get people to get appointments, and how grateful they were and how much they needed the help and how good I felt in helping them. But it's like a circle, right? It's like everybody feels good. And so for me with community, it's not always the big expensive things. It's kind of the little things that really, like, it didn't always take a whole lot for somebody to make that phone call. But it was so impactful. And so it's like little things. Like, I am hoping to help embrace in my own community. I'm working towards creating a nonprofit that will help people when they're going through a troubled time to be supported by community. That community could come together. It would probably, and I know it's going to start with food because that's the training that I've had in finding ways to make food together, even as a community. That's my dream. My dream would be if there's a group of friends that they know they have a friend that's in need, we'll form a group together, we'll cook together, we'll cook things that are supportive for that person, and then we'll provide it to them. And we'll feel good. The community that we'll have right then will be making food with love and intention and thoughtfulness of the person we care for. And that'll be beautiful. And then we'll be able to give them something that they could actually benefit from. And then I just feel like that is going to mushroom, and just like it starts to me, that's community. When you have a community that you can help, when you can rely on for help, when there's no shame in that, there's no stigma to asking for help, and that this is like your neighborhood, like an old-fashioned neighborhood, right? Like the village raising the children,
Yes.
like just like being there for each other.
I think you just mentioned one thing that I have to pick out is not being afraid to ask for help.
Right.
And I think, once again, because of where we live, we're so, I can do this. But if you look at the most successful people, it's their tribe. It's the people around them. I know Warren, the Rolodex that is in his head of the people that he knows that he can call for this and that, whatever, is huge.
Right.
But the other thing I want to touch on is I think the food is so great, because what is, the mother's first medicine?
Right.
Oh, you don't feel good, you have a cup of soup or whatever it may be.
Right.
Now, obviously, we want to take a more, now we have a much more knowledge, a more scientific approach of what foods and this and that, whatever. But I don't think there's anything more genuine that you can give to someone than a home cooked meal. You
know what, though? You really touched. So nutrition is really, really important, but also you touched on, like, soup is actually going to be a very big part. Most of us do lean on chicken soup.
Yeah.
Like, we were brought up when we were sick.
You don't feel good? Chicken soup.
But you know what? Even it does something anyway. Like, it's almost like a placebo anyway. Mm-hmm. It's just a feel good thing. You feel love from that. You feel supported, and it is really nutritionally fantastic.
Yeah, if you make a nice homemade chicken soup, you can put a lot of great ingredients.
Bone broth itself is just incredible. Yeah.
No, it is interesting though, because you're right. My girlfriend, probably 2 weeks ago, was some kind of head cold or something. So there is a chicken soup, but so my background is Greek and Macedonian, and it's called avrolemeno, which just means lemon chicken soup. And I'm sorry, lemon egg soup, because you put egg and lemon in it. Right. And it's good, it's nutritious, but you can tell that when you're sitting there and you're eating it and you feel the warm soup going in your body, all the crap starts coming out your nose, and you feel better. But it is super important. We have to remember that our mind controls our entire body. Right. And if you can relax the mind and put it in a state of healing, it will start to heal itself. Yeah. And that's not mumbo jumbo for people who are listening at home. Your brain can control everything that's here. I met when I was at Montclair State for a semester. We had someone who had come in who talked about positive affirmations, and she was dealing with leukemia, and her hands were starting to cripple, and she got off of her chemo. Not saying that that's what you should do, but she was just, I can't do this anymore. So she decided to heal herself with food and with positive affirmations. So she was diving deep into her nutrition. And she would stare at herself in the mirror for 5 times a day for 5 minutes each time, telling herself, she's going to beat this. She's powerful, whatever, blah, 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 blah. her hands started to open back up again, and all of a sudden her cancer started to go into remission. She was stage 3, by the way.
That's amazing. And
the body can heal itself.
I'm not surprised at all. It's the mind-body connection is
Huge.
incredible. And I will say though, you like the positive affirmations, we can say that so easily. It's a hard thing to do. It's hard to look at yourself in the mirror.
It is very hard.
It's an important thing. And here's one thing that's just to say, you are beautiful. I love you. You are loved. It's actually really challenging.
It's very hard to do. People, I have known people who personally have broken down looking at themselves in the mirror and then finally built themselves back up. But
so powerful.
Even myself, I'm sure this will definitely be out before then. I'm going to be competing at the Arnold Classic in Ohio. I became a professional arm wrestler this past year.
Wow. I didn't know that was a thing.
It is a thing. It's super cool. But it's a great sport, and it's the closest thing you can get to fighting someone without fighting someone.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was here competing, we had a competition here to qualify, and I knew I had one more match to go. And I went into that bathroom. I looked myself right in the mirror, and I was just, railing into myself, but just to, invoke whatever I needed to. And I swear, whenever I do that, my energy and strength level just gets cranked up to 11.
Yeah.
And just think about that. If that's something so, I don't want to say it's insignificant, but insignificant in terms of what you could do with these positive affirmations. Think about how much healthier mentally and physically you can be with them. You know what?
To circle back to like little things, right? It only takes yourself. You need nobody else. You just need a mirror, or not even just, the mirror does definitely help. But,
definitely.
Saying it and believing in yourself. You've got to, and it's almost like that story about the air that comes in the, when you're on a plane, they tell you to take care of yourself first. And as a parent, at first you hear that, it seems really conflicting, but you need the power and the strength to be able to help somebody else. If you don't take care of yourself first, you're not any good to anybody else. Yeah,
I think it's a lot harder for us to, I think, as human beings, especially because we're grown up to, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and all that type of stuff. It's hard for us to be, is introspective the word I'm looking for, I think? Yeah. To look in at yourself and see, like, how can I be better?
Right.
Not with someone giving me this magical pill or solution. It's, no, what can I do? Can I wake up a little bit earlier? Can I make my bed in the morning? Can I make some better food decisions or life decisions or whatever it may be? And you start to take these small little steps, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm kind of developing in ways I didn't think I would. Yeah. And I think that's a great thing that we should all strive for.
And those small things you're saying, that's a big part of the health coaching too, because sometimes you can see somebody that you want to emulate and it's overwhelming because of their choices. They're, oh my gosh, they wake up and they have what to eat, and this is all that they're eating, and I'm going to be just like that. And you can't sustain it. You have to do the little thing, make your bed. I mean, the make your bed could lead to eating better. Right?
Yeah, well, habits create, what your ritual is every day. Right. I look at, he always gets being brought up on this podcast, but Mr. Olympia, Sean Clarita, is a member here, and he's someone I definitely look up to, and he's a good friend. But I watch his routine, and it's the same thing day in, day out. But when I asked him, he goes, he didn't just all of a sudden flip the switch and he was, Mr. Olympia quality. It was 20 years of implementing new rituals every single day, new habits that just became ingrained day in, day out, over and over and over again to now create this thing. And I'll tell you what, the issue is in my pocket. It's instant gratification.
Yes, you're right.
Because everyone wants it now,
yeah.
And they don't realize that we look up to these people, but they've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh, look at Warren Buffett. I'm like, he's been trading since he was like this big.
Right. It's so true.
It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. Well, Nancy, before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. This was great. This was definitely opening for people that are listening. And what I'd like to give you the floor, to just maybe give a couple words of advice, because you are a health coach and this is something that you do. But obviously there's many aspects of Nancy Thistle Gross. But if you could just give them a couple words of advice of how to better themselves day by day.
I'd say, especially following what we've been talking about, is look at look internally, right? Not external. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, and where you are, accept where you are. Everything actually really becomes with awareness. You can't go anywhere or be anything unless you are aware of where you currently are. Accept where you currently are, and then decide which step you want to take and which you will actually do. Because I could wish to be a bodybuilder, but I'm not going to go right like that. Actually, isn't aligned with me. Like I could wish it all I want. I could see somebody out here, and I can feel inspired, and I could do it for a week, and it's not going to sustain itself. But I could take a baby step of drinking more water or sleeping more. I mean, little things to just get you on your way. So it's become aware of where you are and the next step you want to take.
I love it. I love it. Nancy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of the Signature Cast where we talk bodybuilding, business, and everything in between. We will see you again here at Signature Fitness. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later, guys.